Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. It's time for another episode of the Rise to Lead podcast. Expect to be inspired, and especially today as I'm here with amazing Adrian Jackson from Texas. Adrian, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for the invitation. And I have been a fan since I have discovered your show on CLA, and it has been amazing and inspiring. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Oh, that's so lovely of you to say that. Thank you so much. I'm appreciative of this comment because, of course, you know, my guests and I, we are making, and you included, are making a huge effort here to really provide value. And it's always lovely to hear that people see that value and hear that value. Now, Adrian, I want to tell our audience, our listeners, who you are in a nutshell. So I'm going to just quickly read your bio so that people get a little bit of an idea. And then you, of course, welcome to expand on that. Adrian Jackson is Vice President of Home Life, originally from Louisiana. He holds degrees in business administration, has been with Cal Farley's Boy Ranch near Amarillo or Amarillo. I don't know if it's pronounced in Spanish.
Amarillo.
Since 1997. Starting as house parents, Adrian and his wife Talita have played key roles in the organization. Now the Vice President of Home Life, he oversees several departments dedicated to providing a nurturing environment for children. Adrian is also a certified child care administrator, a board member of the Texas Network of Youth Services, and co-author of The Impact of Influence, Volume 8. He is a seasoned bird dog trainer, owning Polka Straight Kennel with numerous awards to his name. Adrian, we met through an entrepreneurial networking group we're both a part of, and I was, as I said before, very pleased when you reached out. So I'm now really curious to learn more about your work, about what brought you to this work. But before we dive into today's topic, you know, I want to just address something that maybe some other listeners will appreciate. You know, Adrian, I consider myself a pretty well-informed human being, and I think it's really important for any leader to be well-informed and from many different sources. And with all that I have researched, especially in the past few years, it's really sometimes hard. This is what I've come to, the conclusion I've come to. It's really sometimes hard to distinguish which organizations, and especially also foundations, are actually working for the children they supposedly support, right? There's so much child trafficking going on inside of many foundations even, and inside of foundations that pretend to do good for children and to help kids. Hundreds of thousands of children going missing every single year. This is really unimaginable almost, right? It's tremendous. Now, of course, I trust that your organization is one of those who actually work in the service of the kids you get to take care of there. Am I right? First of all,
100%. In fact, Regina, one of the things that you have read in my bio is that I am on the board for the Texas Network of Youth Services. And that organization, primary focus is serving kids that have marginalized kids that are in sex trafficking. They actually, if you go to their website, tnoise.org, you will see a lot of the amazing things that they do. But one of the things that they do is they are big in asking for money from the state to have homelessness, youth homelessness, be have some services for youth homeless. And as a big advocate, I was actually a part of that and having T-Noise have more services for youth homeless, because youth homelessness leads to sex trafficking. And that is well within the state of Texas. I'm not as versed about in other states because I'm primarily focused in my home state. And so to fight against sex trafficking, one of the things that we do is need services. Now, Cal Farley organization is a little different. We are residential GRO, which that means is general residential operations. We serve parents. So parents contact us and place their kids here. We do not accept management conservatorship of the kids at all. Their parents are. Their parents come to us, and we are no pay. We can take a kid young and raise them till they're 12. We have alumni services. If you turn into hard times at 50 years old, we take care of you. You're always our kid. We have a public school. It's smack dead in the middle of our campus. So our kids get to participate in all UIL, that is the governing athletic body in Texas. They participate in all state, all games, all sports, all activities. So our campus looks kind of like a small college when you come here. It's very beautiful. Campus is very well maintained, and we don't take any money from the state. We don't take any money from the parents. We are 501c3. We are COA accredited, meaning we subject ourselves for peer reviewers quite often. So as Council of Accreditation, we welcome anybody to come to our campus. But most important, Regina, we have built some significant relationships with people. So one of our relationships is with Dr. Bruce Perry. We are an NMT site. We were one of the first neurosequential model therapeutic site with Dr. Bruce Perry from Houston, the Child Trauma Academy. We subject ourselves to all monitoring by the state of Texas of records of our employees. We have to do very extensive background checks on our employees, but we subject ourselves to all regulations, all COA accreditations, all peer reviews, and we welcome all people that want to just come see what we host. A lot of people just want to come see what we do, but most importantly, our primary job is to keep kids safe. That is our primary job. That is my personal primary job as Vice President of Home Life. And I believe that in order to do that, right, kids have to have a nurturing environment. They have to have a growing ecology with healthy adults. They have to have access to all their family members. So we promote that. We have a complete casework department. If you want to see what we kind of do, you're welcome to visit our website at calfarley.org. And you can kind of see our mission and our vision. But also we subject ourselves to all regulations, all peer reviews, all that kind of stuff, because I do believe that sex trafficking is a very growing and rapidly growing thing in Texas and in nationwide. And I think that we have to have more services to prevent that, and more places for these young people to go so they're not on the streets. And that's just one of the things that T-Noise is fighting over, and trying to have services for those kids.
Thank you so much, Adrian, for clarifying. And I'm really glad that we can have such an open conversation here. So, Adrian, what inspired you in the first place to participate in the Home Life Project and eventually also to take such an important role in it?
Yeah, well, while I've known of Cal Farley's since I was in junior college playing basketball at Clarendon College. Several of the alumni was attending school there. So, but I didn't know what it was. I just knew that they had been in the facility and they were attending school. And we didn't talk about it much. I didn't have any curiosity. Of course, I was 18 years old. I got married young. So I got married after I graduated from junior college, and I got a basketball scholarship to Oklahoma Panhandle State University in Goodwell, Oklahoma. And when my wife and I graduated in December of 1995, my wife's degree is in psychology. So we were going to move to Amarillo, and we just end up passing by the main office at Cal Farley's. And I said to my wife, hey, you're going to be a social worker. Why don't you go and apply? So she went inside, and I sat in the car. And the recruiter came out, and she says, hey, do you want to be a house parent? And I'm 22 years old. And I said, absolutely not. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. My degree is in business and finance. I'm going to go do something in that. And I kind of rolled the window back up. And the recruiter kept coming out and asking, because they were really in need of house parents. So we go back to Goodwell, Oklahoma, and preparing for graduation and trying to figure out our plans. And here we go. The phone is ringing off the hook. It's the recruiter. And at this particular point in time in Goodwill, housing was tough. It was hard to get a house. And we were struggling. That's why we were looking at moving in Amarillo, because we were struggling finding a house. We were going to have to move out of marriage student housing upon graduation. So we said yes. We're going to go try this house parent thing out. Talita is going to become a caseworker, my wife, and then I'm going to go off and do something else. So in 1997, January 1997, we signed up to be house parents in an adolescent boys' home. And the experience was amazing. It was an amazing experience. So 6 months later, my wife became a caseworker, and I was a single assistant. And we had our kids. And so I knew I wasn't going to do that long. So I gave them 6 more months. And in January of 1997, I would go off and leave. Well, I got asked to go to the structured home, and that was the home where the kids that were struggling all moved to. And at that home, I started to receive training, some very extensive training in de-escalation and intervention. And it just made that job so fun, like so fun. And so I made another goal. My goal was I'll give them 5 years. I'll do 5 years, and then I'm gonna go off and do my business stuff. Well, 27 years later, I'm still there. And one is because of the training that I started to receive and got really good at my job. And then secondly, they actually promoted this kid, they promoted me. So I was over the girls unit, and I'm the youngest supervisor, right? And I'm actually younger than all my staff, right? And that was challenging, but at many times I had questioned, why did I sign up for this job? And you can kind of recall this. When you go into leadership, you get a little bit of a pay raise on paper, but actually you make less money than everybody, because you're on salary and the number of hours you have to work when everybody is on. So I made less than everybody because I had to work more, and I didn't get compensated because I was on salary. So I worked a ton, and I learned a lot about leadership. I was able to run a really efficient program. I learned a lot from my mentors, which I wrote in the book, Impact of Influence, volume 8 with Chip Baker. I'm one of the 13 authors in that. I wrote about that experience of the mentors that I learned about leadership. And over time, I just kept getting promoted because of meeting competency levels. But I was at a crossroad at some point, Regina. I'd also started being a professional bird dog trainer and competing nationally on the circuit. And so I'm working at Boys Ranch, I'm training dogs. And at some point I figured, I have to decide whether I have to go get my master's degree and keep looking for a higher position at Boys Ranch, or I invest in my kennel and start going that path. So I thought about it, and I'm cheap. So the cheapest thing was to invest in my kennel, and that's what I was going to go do. I was going to eventually, when the fun stopped, I was going to be a full-time bird dog trainer. I had made a national known for myself up at this point. So I invested in my kennel. I built a larger kennel, and I'm training bird dogs for all over the country. I'm starting to judge. I'm competing, and I'm working my tail off, right? And I kept getting promoted. Like I kept getting promoted. Like so, I end up getting promoted in the jobs that initially required a master's degree. And so, because of my competency level, my the quality of work, the influence on the staff. So at some point, I started developing my team to be the next leaders. And this is part of our topic today.
Right.
And I find the importance of that because at any moment I kept saying, I'm going to go be a dog trainer. I want to make sure that the company, this program is left with a great supervisor, right? So I kept working on my young staff and to be a supervisor. Like I said, what is your goals? Like, what is your goals? So how I got to this position is one, I kept working hard. I used my training. I learned from my mentors. And next thing you know, I'm vice president of home life. But I never stopped my other job, right? I never stopped being a professional bird dog trainer. Like I
Yeah.
never stopped that, right? Because I always want options. When you have options, you never have to compromise your morals. You never have to be in a situation where somebody asks you to do something or be somebody you're not. I can always say, no, thank you. I have this over here.
Right.
And, but growing young leaders has become very important. I do that with the youth at Boys Ranch, right? I do that with my young staff. And so, yeah, I like to bring young people into the organization and I like to project them right into leadership through competencies and training.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing your story. Yeah, quite impressive. And I totally value experience and learning by doing over any type of degree. I personally do.
Yeah,
First of all, I have a similar experience myself.
yeah,
And second, it just shows me who you are. It shows me what you can do rather than just a certification on paper, which
yeah.
might even be completely outdated and far too theoretical, right?
That's
So
very true.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely with you in that. Okay, so so let's talk about qualities that you would see as key indicators that someone young
yeah,
has potential to be a strong leader.
yeah. So one of the first ones, one of the qualities is one being teachable, you know,
Mhm.
and for me, I was a kid out of the projects, and my mom gave all eight of us went to college, eight of my brothers and sisters. And my parents couldn't afford to pay for it. So they said, hey, you gotta be a good student and you gotta be a good basketball player. So your school will be free. Not all of us went to college playing basketball, but several of us did. Well, one of the traits you learn pretty quick from your parents, one is that be coachable. So that was the first thing they were saying. The only way you can get on the court is being coachable, right? If the coach believes that can trust you, that you're going to listen to him, that you can get on the court. And once you're on the court, good things can happen for you. Well, that turned out to be true, but it's much greater than that, right? So what ended up happening was developing a teachable mindset that I never stopped learning. So one of the traits I like to see is that a young person, that a person, not just a young person, they never believe they have arrived. They never believe that they know it all. Like in my 27 years as a dog trainer, my 27 years as a childcare professional, I never believe I know it all. I always seek to learn from somebody somewhere, right? So having a mindset of continuous growth is important. First, being reachable, right? Being open and approachable in every interaction, being emotional available, being willingness to engage meaningfully. And also too is being respectable, right? And for me, that's not just about being like being respectful. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. It ain't so much about that, right? It's just having been honest integrity, right? First, I like to see people having that they take care of themselves. Like I like to see people that says, "Hey, this is how I take care of myself. This is how I drain off. This is the things that I like because this is a stressful job, and if you don't know how to do that, you become overwhelmed very quickly. I have been, um, and I didn't set off because I was born in the 70s and I'm a 90s kid, and our parents made us just work, 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 right? But one of the things, just by chance, I get to do what I'm passionate about every day. And I'm not talking about my career when I make money. I'm talking about my kennel. I get to go hang out with my dogs every day, starting at 5:30 in the morning to 7:30. I get to go back after. And that allows me to be balanced for when I come do my job at California's. It
Mhm.
allows me to drain off and stress. I talk to myself out there. If my dogs could talk, Regina, I bet you they'll tell you all kind of wonderful, crazy things, right? Because that's an area where I drain off. It's an area where I become balanced. It's an area that when I come home, I'm a better husband. It's an area when I come home, I'm a better parent. It's an area when I come home, I'm a better employee. And so being able to have those things, one is but having that teachable mindset, right? That you never have arrived. You always want to learn. There's always something to gain, there's always something that is inspiring or insightful, and it helps develop a high sense of self-motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important to take care of yourself, of your well-being, so that you can then pass that on to other people around you, your family, the people you work with, the people you support. And especially when you work with with adolescent, kids who then can take you as a model in that sense. I always say you don't need a role model that looks like you, but it's great that you have someone that can inspire you to keep growing, to develop as yourself, and to take care of yourself as well, because that's something that we don't really necessarily learn in school or in, or even at work from leaders that are not as conscious or aware of the importance of these topics. So yeah, very, very important. Also, how do we even address overwhelm? Because we all experience it probably at some point in life, but how do we address it? Because it's of course self-created. So then that means we can also uncreate it or discreate it. But we don't, when we're not aware as a leader, then we cannot. It's so important to have that awareness, right? Now, what about also the adolescents, the children that you work with? How do you identify leadership potential in them? Would you say that everybody has it, or, we are certainly not all born as leaders,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
can acquire leadership skills and learn from other people around us as well. But would you say that everyone has leadership potential?
100%, and everybody's at a different stage of it,
Mhm.
right? And for our kids, one of the things that we do here is that we offer an array of activities for our youth to engage in. Because one is you have to be able to find your purpose. And I give you an example, and you can actually go to Cal Farley YouTube site and see this. We had a young lady that was admitted, and she was really struggling. She came from a pretty rough background, and um, she didn't have quite the parental support, even though they were present. They just wasn't um, um, as attentive, and she had some pretty maladaptive behaviors. And she was a struggle for us. She was a struggle, and we're doing a lot of interventions. And one day, she was running around campus, and we are having to chase her. And I finally got her to talk to me, and she said, "Hey, I just want to go pet the chickens." So we have like some chickens, and little miniature goats, and it's like a really common experience for the kids. So we took her up there, and she's petting those chickens, and we're starting to have a conversation. And we brought up the Rocket Club. So, and this is really cool. We brought this Rocket Club. She said, "Well, I think I'll try that." So at some point, we connected to the facilitator of the Rocket Club, and even though our kids in high school, they're building, we have our own airspace here at Cal Farley's, where we can shoot off rockets, and colleges and other rocket clubs come shoot their rockets out here. But our kids make their rockets out of carbon fiber. They're not making cardboard rockets. They're making rockets that are 18, 20 feet tall. They make their own rocket fuel. They make the engines. And this young lady that went from being challenging to breaking the high school record, a female high school record in altitude with a rocket, right? That is achievement. And when they can gain a sense of achievement, power, purpose, belonging, and have a huge engulfment of safety, then you could see their leadership qualities come out. So they have to gain a sense of purpose so their leadership qualities can expand. So they're always in there. Like once you find something that's for you, that makes you that gets you motivated inside, then your leadership qualities will emerge. They will emerge out, And so that is one of the things that is paramount, is finding something that's your purpose. So your leadership qualities will come out and expand and grow, and you can nurture it. It can be fed and all that.
Yeah. So I want to go back to two things that you mentioned, right? First of all, the healing effect of pets.
Yeah.
It could be a chicken, it could be a cat, it could be a dog, as like in your case.
Yeah.
And I love dogs too, and I also love other pets, but this is also my preference, although I don't have one because I travel too much. And it's not really, it wouldn't be a good choice for the dog. But I have taken care of other people's dogs for extended periods of time. And then I have one specifically who is very, very dear to my heart. But yes, and they and just to be in touch with these healing beings, to call them something right now, can make such a big difference, and it can help people open up.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful to see that effect. And then, of course, yes, something that is missing at most schools is allowing children to find their purpose, to find what they're great at, to find their passions, what they really, really want to do. I have in my own family a few examples of both siblings and nephews who struggled through school. They hated it because it was just not, there was not the right offering for them. And they are great at what they do after school. They just want to get out of school. They would never have wanted to go to college. They're awesome at what they do. One of them is an amazing musician. Actually, two of them are. And one of my brothers has a very successful business. It's just incredible to see, to me, what sometimes not done in schools that should be done. I've even written entire articles about it. If you're ever interested, I'd be happy to share one with you, Adrian. But isn't that so important, right?
Yeah.
What you just described to us.
Yeah, we also have horses. So I personally have horses.
Nice.
And we have horses here on campus for the kids to do trail rides and different stuff like that. And so those
it's called a ranch, right? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, it's a ranch. Yeah, 11,000 acres.
Awesome. I grew up on a farm, by the way.
Outstanding. Yeah, so you would love it here, by the way. You would love it. If you come to the States, you got to come see me.
Sure.
But, one of the things you had mentioned about your experiences with animals, when I was writing the chapter of Impact and Influence, my chapter title is Reflection from the River Valley. Because when I have a hard day, I go out to my kennel, I take care of all the animals, I saddle up one of my horses, and I just go ride down the Canadian River Valley. And my head gets clear. just that being in touch with nature, the rhythm of the horse's hooves is soothing to my lower brain, and I can just become balanced. I can start to see the world clearly. I can get rid of the negative thoughts. I can do all kind of things, but there's days that sometimes I just want to go out there and I just take a ride, and it may not be a long ride. Sometimes it is a long ride, depends on what had happened at work that day. But it's just between the bond with my horses, the being embodied in nature, the sight, sound, and smells, that whole sensory experience, just as common. And that is what we need to offer people that have experienced trauma. We need to offer them those sensory experiences that is common to the lower brain, that allows them to be open, allows them to be balanced. And just the same thing you need and I need, we got to offer it to younger people or people that are experiencing things. They need to be offered the same exact thing that we seek to become balanced.
Yes, absolutely. And being in contact with nature is so, so key. It is, again, so very healing. Absolutely. So when I think of horses, I don't know how to ride a horse properly,
Yeah.
but I tried a few times as a kid because we had a neighbor who had horses, and I
Mhm.
certainly fell off of horses a few times.
Yeah, yeah.
And so later I did a little bit of horse riding, occasionally in excursions and while living in Spain, but very few times. I have a lot of respect for the height of a horse because
Yeah,
I have
yeah. Yes.
fallen off as a
You
kid.
definitely got to get over that part, um, getting over,
Yeah.
it's interesting about the different behaviors of the dogs and the horses. And my
Mhm.
son also has racing pigeons, so he has homing pigeons. And
Oh, wow.
um, so we got a little bit of everything out there. But when the dogs see my truck coming, the first thing they get to think is, oh man, that's Adrian, right?
Mhm.
Horses say, hey dude, get over here and feed me. Yeah, so it's like two different. So I like to go hang out with the dogs first because they like just so happy to see me.
Uh-huh.
And I'm happy to see him. But the horses need to say, hey man, they stand over their food bowls and say, hey, get over here and feed me.
Feed me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like the
Yeah.
feedback given by the dogs, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, it's animals are just incredible. It's wow. We should spend more time with animals. I do know two ladies in Canada who do leadership coaching actually with horses as well.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting. I had another question for you that I wanted to ask you, and it's so when you identify, right, your potential leaders in your team, so how do you grow and guide them while allowing them to find their own most authentic leader self, their own leadership style?
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
Yes. So one, you have to be very intentional about how you go about one, training your staff just to do their job,
Mhm.
right? And then preparing them to be leaders. Like that's actually two different tracks. They may look the same, but they're two different tracks, right? And so one part is that when you have your individual meetings with staff, they need to tell you, you need to ask them, what is your goals? Like, and a lot of people say, I don't want to be the supervisor. They always say it looks like that's way too much. And I say, hey, that's young thinking. When you get 50, you don't want to be on the ground level no more. Right?
Right,
I'm glad I'm not on the ground level no more,
right.
right? But
Maybe it's, you know what, Adrian, if I might just quickly interrupt, maybe it's also that word supervisor,
yes,
it
it
just
can
has
be.
a weird connotation,
Yeah.
right?
And when people because they know how their coworkers are,
Mhm.
right? They know they don't want to supervise some of their coworkers or behaviors
Oh,
like the that's what they're afraid of, right? So, but so what do you do? We like to do what we call situational leadership. I like to do what we call situational leadership. So I
Mhm.
identify the developmental level of each of my staff. right? Whether they're developmental ones, which they're low motivation and low skill, right? So it's like a brand new staff. They don't really know what the job is, right? And then developmental level 2 is moderate to low motivation, which they kind of, okay, some days it's hard, some days it's not so hard, and then moderate to low skill. I mean, they do know some skills, but they're not great at the job yet, right? And then developmental level 3, which is variable skills and variable motivation. Meaning there's days and there's certain tasks that they're very high competent at, and there's certain tasks that they're not. And there's days that their motivation is very high, and there's days that they're not. And then developmental level 4, where there is high skill, high motivation, right? Mm-hmm. And so I use that to give them the type of supervision they need given their developmental level and the tasks. Okay. So that's how I use it to grow them. There's some staff that needs direct supervision from me, and there's some staff that just need me to consult with them. Mm-hmm. And that's how I determine that. It's one is their motivation, one is their skill. So you can take an employee, and this happens a ton. You take an employee and you promote them to supervisor, right? But what has ended up happening is because they went from a high skill, high motivation employee, now they're back down here as a developmental 1 supervisor. And most time, people don't give them S1 supervision because now they got a new task, new skill, and they fail at the supervision level. So a high employee become a supervisor, and they fail because they don't get the supervision from me that's required. The supervision, the mentorship, and the direction. So that's how I determine that, is that it's about what kind of supervision I'm going to give them, right? Okay. Yeah. And so that's how I grow them, is determined by, but I have to first assess what developmental level that they're at, right? And if I give them a new task, I have to go back and be a different kind of supervisor, right? So they can learn to become more competent, right? So if you go through that competent and confident cycle, so the more competent you are, the more confidence you can begin. And once you got more confidence, you'll try more things. And if you try more things, you become more competent. And then if those things begin to work for you and you get motivated, then it builds your confidence. And then because you're confident, then I can give them a new task and then help them become more competent in that new task. And then that's how you get to grow them. The second thing that's highly important is I have to demonstrate being a servant leader as I want them to be. Mm-hmm. So I can't come in and ask them to be a certain kind of leader that I don't demonstrate to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Behavior speaks louder than words.
100%, right? 100%. Yeah. So I have to all the skills, the mindset, and how I want people to interact is that kindness, patience, integrity. I have to demonstrate that first. I have to set the tone, the culture for that in my department, right? And if I have staff in conflict, the first thing I would say to them, have I ever talked to you that way? Mm-hmm. The answer is always going to be no. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have I ever interacted with you that way?
Right.
So I like to set the tones. I want you to treat people like I treat you when you're at work.
Right. And at the same time, you give them space, though, to have their own authentic leadership style, right? Because we're all different people.
Yes, 100%.
Also to respect this in leaders as well. Yes, and what you described before about the confidence and the competence, then becomes, I like to call that a virtuous circle, not a vicious circle, but a virtuous circle, because one feeds the other, right?
Yes, one feeds the other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It grows.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, this has been a very rich conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, your wisdom, and your tips. Where can people connect with you? And I'm definitely going to share all the links that you sent me as well, but where would where would you prefer them to connect with you?
Well, I have an author page on Facebook, Adrian P. Jackson. Also, you can find me on Twitter, again, at Adrian P. Jackson, or LinkedIn at Adrian P. Jackson, Adrian P. Jackson, Jackson. So that's, that's where I'm at. I'm not new to social media, but I am trying to get better at posting more stuff and more engagement. Also, you can see my kennel, which is on Facebook at Poker Straight Kennel. And you'll see it's actually a client page. It's where the clients go to see their dogs in training. I video a lot of the sessions. And so it's pretty cool to see a young bird dog grow. And there's videos where you can watch them develop all the way through. Poker Straight Kennel, POKERSTRAIGHT Kennel.
Yeah, I'm definitely also going to include that. You sent that to me too. I remember that because I was wondering at first until I read your bio.
Yes,
so then, yes, I will include that in the description as well of the podcast episode. No worries. Again, thank you so much for being here, Adrian. And I'm saying goodbye for today and until the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.